At 4:03 a.m., Zariah Cole was scrubbing office floors for pennies, while her stroke-recovering grandmother waited at home for medications they couldn't afford. She had no idea that falling asleep on one leather couch would drag her into the crosshairs of a Mafia war that had already claimed one woman's life. The exhausted cleaner thought she was invisible to the world, but someone had been watching her every move, mapping her routes, learning her weaknesses. When Matteo Rinaldi found her unconscious in his penthouse, he saw more than just a trespasser. He saw a second chance at love and redemption that his enemies would kill to destroy. What started as an accidental nap would become a deadly game where the stakes were her grandmother's life, her own survival, and a love that could either save them both or bury them together. The sniper's red dot was already dancing across the window when she opened her eyes. Subscribe and tell me where you're watching from, because this story is about to prove that sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is fall asleep in the wrong place. The alarm clock screamed at 3:45 a.m., cutting through the darkness like a knife. Zariah Cole's hand shot out from under her thin blanket, slapping the snooze button with practiced precision. Her eyes burned as she forced them open. Another day, another dollar, another step closer to keeping her head above water. She rolled out of bed, her feet hitting the cold linoleum floor of her cramped studio apartment. Through the paper-thin walls, she could hear Mrs. Rodriguez's baby crying next door. The sound tugged at something deep in her chest, but she pushed it away. She didn't have time for feelings right now. "Morning, Nonna," she whispered, padding over to the hospital bed that took up most of their living space. Her grandmother's chest rose and fell in steady rhythm. At 72, Imani Cole looked so small under the covers, her dark skin papery and fragile since the stroke 3 months ago. The left side of her face drooped slightly, but even in sleep, there was strength in the set of her jaw. The same stubborn strength that had raised Zariah when her parents died in that car crash 15 years ago. Zariah pressed a gentle kiss to her grandmother's forehead and whispered a quick prayer. "Keep her safe today, please." The shower water ran lukewarm at best. Zariah scrubbed quickly with the dollar store soap, her mind already racing through the day ahead. Office cleaning from 4 to 7, diner shift from 8 to 3, then courier work until whenever. If she was lucky, she'd get home by midnight, with enough energy left to help Nonna with her evening medications. She pulled on her cleaning uniform, black pants and a white polo shirt that had seen better days but was still presentable. Her reflection in the cracked bathroom mirror showed tired eyes and cheekbones a little too sharp. When was the last time she'd eaten a real meal? Yesterday? The day before? Her phone buzzed. A text from the clinic. Reminder: physical therapy appointment for Imani Cole at 9 a.m. today. Zariah's heart clenched. The therapy was helping Nonna regain movement in her left arm, but each session cost money they didn't have. The insurance covered some of it, but not enough. Nothing was ever enough. She grabbed a granola bar from their tiny kitchen counter, the last one in the box, and shoved it into her bag for Nonna later. Her own breakfast would have to wait. Again, the streets were empty except for a few delivery trucks and early commuters heading to the subway. Zariah pulled her jacket tighter against the October chill and started walking. The bus fare would eat into their grocery money, and she needed every penny for Nonna's medications. The office building downtown was 40 stories of glass and steel that reflected the city lights like diamonds. Zariah had been cleaning the 17th floor for 6 months now, and she still felt out of place, surrounded by all that wealth. Her ID card got her through security, and she took the elevator up to start another day of invisible work. The vacuum hummed as she pushed it across expensive carpet. Her hands were already raw from the cleaning chemicals, but she'd learned to ignore the sting. Around her, empty offices held the ghosts of important people making important decisions. Decisions that probably involved more money than she'd see in a lifetime. Her phone buzzed at 6:30. A text from Tony at the diner. "Don't be late today, we're already short-staffed." Zariah's stomach dropped. She'd been 5 minutes late twice this month when Nonna had bad mornings. Tony was a decent boss, but he was also running a business. If she lost this job, she couldn't finish that thought. By 7, she was jogging 4 blocks to the diner, her cleaning supplies bag bouncing against her hip. The smell of bacon, grease and coffee hit her as she pushed through the door, making her empty stomach cramp with hunger. "You look like hell," said Maria, the other waitress, tying her apron. "Feel like it too." Zariah grabbed her order pad and forced a smile. "But we're here, right?" The morning rush was brutal. Construction workers wanting fast eggs and coffee, business people grabbing bagels before their real day started. Zariah's feet ached in her cheap sneakers, but she kept moving. Every table meant tips. Tips meant Nonna's medicine. During her 10-minute break, she called the clinic. "Good morning, this is Zariah Cole. I'm confirming my grandmother's appointment today at 9. "Of course, honey. How's she been doing with the exercises?" "Better. Stronger." Zariah closed her eyes, leaning against the diner's brick wall. "She's a fighter." "That's wonderful to hear. We'll see you both soon." Zariah hung up and stared at her phone screen. 3 missed calls from the landlord. The eviction notice app notification glowed red, demanding attention she couldn't give right now. One crisis at a time. That's how she survived. One crisis, one breath, one step at a time. Back inside, the lunch crowd was starting to filter in. Zariah grabbed the coffee pot and worked her way around the tables, refilling cups and taking orders. Her smile felt painted on, but these people deserved good service regardless of her personal problems. "Excuse me, miss?" An older man in a expensive suit held up his cup. "Could I get some more coffee?" "Of course," she poured, noting the way he said, "Please," and "Thank you." Simple courtesy, but it meant something when most people treated her like part of the furniture. Her phone rang at 2:45, just as she was clearing her last table. "Zariah, this is Jennifer from Elite Cleaning Services." "Hi, Jennifer." Zariah wedged the phone between her ear and shoulder, balancing a tray of dirty dishes. "What's up?" "I have an emergency situation. One of our regular clients needs immediate service, and my other girls are booked solid. It's a high-end residential job downtown. Good money, 3 times your usual rate." Zariah's pulse quickened. 3 times her rate meant she could cover Nonna's medication and maybe even get ahead on rent. "What's the catch?" "No catch. Just, this client values discretion. There's a detailed list of what to clean and what not to touch. Follow it exactly, and you'll do fine." "I can be there by 4. "Perfect. I'll text you the address and access codes." "And Zariah?" "This could lead to more high-paying jobs if you handle it well." The address made Zariah whistle low. It was in the most expensive part of the city, where she'd only been to clean office buildings. She'd never seen the inside of one of those penthouses. The courier shift would have to wait. This was too good an opportunity to pass up. She took the subway to save time, studying the job details Jennifer had texted. Penthouse 4A. Private elevator, access with a special code. A list of specific areas to clean, and a longer list of rooms that were off-limits. The pay would cover 2 months of Nonna's medications if she did this right. The building was all marble and gold trim, with a doorman who looked at her cleaning supplies with barely concealed distaste. The elevator required the special code Jennifer had provided, and it rose smoothly to the top floor without stopping. When the doors opened, Zariah stepped into luxury she'd only seen in movies. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed the city spread out below like a glittering carpet. The furniture was all clean lines and expensive leather. Everything was pristine, like a magazine photo, except for the lived-in touches that showed someone actually called this place home. "You must be Zariah." She turned to find a woman in her 50s, with kind eyes and graying hair pulled back in a neat bun. Her accent was slight but warm, maybe Spanish. "I'm Anna Silva, the housekeeper. I keep the regular schedule, but we needed extra help today. Nice to meet you." Zariah set down her supplies, trying not to gawk at the art on the walls. "Jennifer said there was a specific list?" Anna nodded, handing her a detailed sheet. "The boss values his privacy. These rooms are off-limits." She pointed to several items on the list. "And please don't disturb anything in the study. He's very particular about his papers." "Got it. Where should I start? Kitchen first, then the main living areas. I'll be finishing up the bedrooms." Anna paused, studying Zariah's face. "You look tired, Miha. When did you last eat?" The kindness in her voice almost broke Zariah's composure. "I'm fine. Just a long day." Anna disappeared into the kitchen and returned with a sandwich and a bottle of water. "Eat. The work will still be here." Zariah wanted to refuse. She wasn't a charity case, but her stomach won the argument. The sandwich was simple turkey and cheese, but it tasted like heaven. "Thank you. We take care of each other here," Anna said simply. "The boss believes in that too, even if he doesn't always know how to show it." Zariah worked her way through the penthouse methodically. The kitchen was spotless already, but she cleaned the granite counters and stainless steel appliances until they gleamed. The dining room table could seat 12 and probably cost more than she made in a year. The living room was her favorite. Huge windows, comfortable furniture arranged for conversation rather than show, and books everywhere. Real books with worn covers and dog-eared pages. Someone actually read here. She was dusting the entertainment center when exhaustion hit her like a wall. The sandwich had helped, but she'd been running on adrenaline and caffeine for weeks. Her vision blurred slightly, and she had to grip the edge of the table to steady herself. The couch behind her looked impossibly soft, cream-colored leather that probably cost more than her car. She told herself she'd just sit for a minute, just long enough to get her balance back. The moment she sank into the cushions, her body betrayed her. Her eyelids felt like lead weights, and the exhaustion she'd been fighting for months crashed over her in waves. She'd close her eyes for just a second. She was dimly aware of someone draping something warm over her shoulders. A jacket that smelled like expensive cologne and something else. Something safe. In her dream, she was 8 years old again, curled up on Nonna's lap, while her grandmother hummed old spirituals and braided her hair. Safe, loved, without worries about rent or medicine or keeping food on the table. Wake up, sleeping beauty. The voice was quiet but firm, with just a hint of an accent. Not Anna's voice. This one was deeper, rougher around the edges. Zariah's eyes snapped open, and she found herself staring into the darkest brown eyes she'd ever seen. The man sitting on the coffee table in front of her was maybe 35, with black hair and a face that could have been carved from marble. He was watching her with an expression she couldn't read. "I'm so sorry." She shot to her feet, the jacket falling to the floor. "I didn't mean to. I was just resting for a second and—" "Easy." He held up one hand, his voice calm. "You were exhausted. When did you last sleep? Really sleep?" The question caught her off guard. Most people would have been angry about finding a stranger asleep on their expensive furniture. This man seemed more concerned than upset. That's not important. I should finish cleaning and get out of your way." She bent to pick up the jacket, noting the quality of the fabric. "Thank you for this. Keep it. You're shivering." She was shivering, but not from cold. Something about this man set every nerve in her body on high alert. Not fear exactly, but awareness. He moved like someone accustomed to being obeyed, but his voice held no threat. "I really should go. What's your name?" "Zariah." The answer slipped out before she could think about it. Zariah. The way he said it made her name sound like music. "I'm Matteo." She nodded, still backing toward her cleaning supplies. "Nice to meet you, mister." "Just Matteo." He stood, and she realized he was taller than she'd thought. "Zariah, I need you to listen to me very carefully." Something in his tone made her freeze. Outside the windows, the sun was starting to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Beautiful, but something felt wrong. "What?" "Step away from the windows. Now." The urgency in his voice sent ice through her veins. She moved without thinking, just as something bright flashed across the glass, a red dot that tracked across the wall where she'd been standing. Matteo lunged forward, his arm wrapping around her waist as he pulled her down behind the couch. The world exploded in a shower of glass and noise, and Zariah felt something warm on her cheek. Blood. "Stay down." Matteo's voice was calm, but she could feel the tension in his body. He spoke into a device she hadn't noticed before. "Luca, roof access. Now." "What's happening?" Zariah's voice came out as a whisper. "Someone's trying to send me a message." He tilted her chin up, examining the small cut on her cheek. "And they used you to do it." The lights went out, plunging the penthouse into darkness broken only by the city lights outside. Zariah heard footsteps, Anna moving quickly through the apartment, and other voices she didn't recognize. "Sir." A new voice, this one with a slight accent. "Rooftops clear, but we found something." "What kind of something, Luca?" "Shell casing. And this." Even in the dim light, Zariah could see Luca holding up something small and white. Her heart stopped when she realized what it was. Her cleaning service badge, the one with her photo and name. "They know who you are," Matteo said quietly, "which means they know where you live." Zariah's mind raced. Nonna, alone in their apartment with no one to protect her. "I have to go. My grandmother." "You can't go home." "Not yet. You don't understand." She struggled against his grip. "She needs her evening medications. She's alone. Then we bring her here." "No." Zariah shook her head violently. "I don't know what this is about, but we're not part of it. We just want to be left alone." Mateo's expression softened, and for a moment she saw past the authority to something that looked almost like pain. I'm afraid that's not an option anymore, Zariah. The moment they involved you, you became part of it whether you wanted to or not. Outside, sirens wailed in the distance. Anna appeared beside them with a first aid kit, cleaning the small cut on Zariah's cheek with gentle hands. What do they want? Zariah asked. To hurt me. Mateo's voice was quiet, but there was steel underneath. By hurting someone I care about. But you don't even know me. He was quiet for a long moment, his dark eyes studying her face. Maybe not, but someone thinks I do, and that's enough to put you in danger. Zariah thought about her grandmother's medication schedule, about the bills piling up on their tiny kitchen table, about the eviction notice glowing on her phone. She thought about the way Mateo had covered her with his jacket while she slept, and the gentle way Anna had offered her food. She thought about that red dot tracking across the wall where she'd been standing. If I go with you, she said finally, my grandmother comes too, and this is temporary, just until whatever this is blows over. Mateo nodded. Whatever you need, and I want to know what's really going on. No lies. No lies. Zariah closed her eyes and made a decision that would change everything. Okay, but we do this my way. Nonna's health comes first, before everything else. Agreed. As Luca and another man Zariah didn't recognize prepared to escort them out of the building, she caught Mateo's arm. One more thing. That jacket you put over me while I was sleeping? You didn't have to do that. Everyone deserves to be comfortable when they're vulnerable. Something in the way he said it made her think he understood vulnerability better than his expensive clothes and commanding presence suggested. Maybe there was more to Mateo than met the eye. As they left the penthouse, Zariah realized she was stepping into a world she didn't understand. But for the first time in months, she wasn't facing her problems alone. That had to count for something. The ride to Zariah's apartment felt like the longest 20 minutes of her life. She sat in the back of Mateo's black SUV, watching familiar streets blur past through bulletproof windows she hadn't known existed until Luca pointed them out. Your grandmother, Mateo said quietly. Tell me about her condition. Zariah kept her eyes on the window. Stroke 3 months ago. Left side weakness, but she's getting stronger. The physical therapy helps. But, she trailed off. Why was she telling him this? But it's expensive. Everything's expensive when you don't have money. The words came out sharper than she intended. I didn't mean to offend you. She looked at him then, surprised by the genuine regret in his voice. You didn't. I'm just tired of being poor. Tired of counting every penny while my grandmother suffers because I can't afford better care. The SUV pulled up outside her building, and Zariah's heart sank. The neighborhood looked even shabbier next to Mateo's obvious wealth. Broken streetlights, trash scattered on the sidewalk, graffiti covering most surfaces. This was her reality. Wait here, Luca said from the driver's seat. No. Zariah reached for the door handle. I'm not letting strangers into my home. Nonna gets scared easily since the stroke. Mateo caught her wrist gently. Luca just wants to make sure it's safe. Safe from what? From whoever put your badge in that shell casing. The reminder sent a chill down her spine. She'd been so focused on getting to Nonna that she'd almost forgotten about the sniper. Almost. 5 minutes, she said. Then I want your man out of our apartment. Luca nodded and disappeared into the building. Zariah watched the entrance, her fingers drumming nervously on her leg. Behind her, she could feel Mateo watching, but he didn't speak. When Luca's voice crackled through the radio saying, "Clear," she bolted from the SUV before anyone could stop her. The stairs to the 3rd floor had never felt so endless. Her key shook in the lock, and then she was inside their small world. Nonna, it's me. Zariah, baby. Her grandmother's voice was stronger today, less slurred than it had been that morning. You're home early. Nonna was sitting up in her hospital bed, working on the physical therapy exercises with the little rubber ball the clinic had given her. The left side of her face still drooped slightly, but her dark eyes were sharp and alert. We need to go somewhere safe for a few days, Zariah said, sitting on the edge of the bed. There was some trouble at work. What kind of trouble? Nonna's voice carried the authority of someone who'd raised a teenager through foster care and street smarts. Someone tried to hurt me. A man named Mateo is going to help us. A man? Nonna's eyebrow went up. What kind of man? Before Zariah could answer, there was a soft knock on the door. She opened it to find Mateo standing in the hallway alone, his expensive suit looking completely out of place. Mrs. Cole. He stepped forward, and Zariah was surprised by the respect in his voice. "I'm Matteo Rinaldi. I'm very sorry to disturb your evening." Nonna studied him with the sharp gaze that had always been able to see through lies and pretense. "You the one my grandbaby's mixed up with?" "Yes, ma'am. Though not by choice. Someone used Zariah to send me a message, and now she's in danger because of it. Come here, boy." Matteo approached the hospital bed, and Nonna grabbed his wrist with her good hand. Her grip was still strong despite everything. "You going to keep her safe?" "Yes, ma'am. And me." "You too." Nonna held his gaze for a long moment, then nodded. "All right then, but I got conditions." Zariah blinked in surprise. She'd expected Nonna to refuse, to insist they handle this themselves like they always had. "Name them," Matteo said. "My medications. I take them at the same time every day, no exceptions. And my therapy exercises. I don't miss those either." "Done. And if this is some kind of con game, if you're planning to hurt my girl, I still got friends in this neighborhood who remember when I was young and dangerous." A smile tugged at the corner of Matteo's mouth. "I believe you, Mrs. Cole." "Good. Zariah, pack our things." 20 minutes later, they were loading into the SUV with 2 suitcases and a bag of medical supplies. Nonna insisted on walking to the car herself, waving off Luca's offer of assistance. "Where are we going?" Zariah asked as they pulled away from everything familiar. "Somewhere safe," Matteo said. "A house I keep for situations like this." "You have situations like this often?" "More than I'd like." The safe house turned out to be a small townhouse in a quiet neighborhood across the city. It looked normal from the outside, but Zariah noticed the security cameras and the way Luca checked every room before letting them enter. Anna was waiting for them with soup warming on the stove and fresh flowers on the kitchen table. She fussed over Nonna like a protective mother, helping her get settled in the downstairs bedroom while Zariah watched in amazement. "You don't have to do all this," Zariah told Matteo as Anna showed Nonna the bathroom setup. "Yes, I do." "Why?" He was quiet for a long moment, staring out the kitchen window into the small backyard. "Because I once ignored warning signs like the ones we saw today. Someone I loved paid the price for my carelessness." There was pain in his voice, old and deep. Zariah wanted to ask more, but something held her back. Instead, she focused on the practical. "How long do we stay here?" "Until it's safe for you to go home." "And when will that be?" "I don't know." The honesty was refreshing, even if the answer wasn't what she wanted to hear. At least he wasn't lying to her. That night, Zariah lay in the guest room upstairs, staring at the ceiling. Through the thin walls, she could hear Matteo moving around downstairs. He'd insisted on taking the couch despite Anna's protests about the guest bedroom. She must have dozed, because she woke to the sound of humming, soft and low, barely audible through the floor, a melody she recognized. It was the lullaby Nonna used to sing when Zariah had nightmares as a child, the same one she'd been humming during her therapy session that afternoon, working the feeling back into her left hand. But the voice wasn't Nonna's. Zariah crept to her door and opened it a crack. The humming was coming from downstairs, and it was definitely Matteo's voice carrying the tune. Rough around the edges, but oddly soothing. Why would a man like him know an old spiritual her grandmother sang? The next morning brought new questions. Zariah woke to the smell of coffee and pancakes and found Anna and Nonna working together in the kitchen like old friends. "Good morning, Mija," Anna said, handing her a steaming mug. "Your grandmother's been teaching me her cornbread recipe." "More like she's been telling me I'm doing it wrong," Nonna said with a laugh. "But she's a good student." Zariah looked around the kitchen. "Where's Matteo?" "Business call," Anna said. "But he left instructions about your grandmother's therapy routine." "What kind of instructions?" Anna led her to the living room, where a physical therapy mat had been set up by the windows. Professional equipment, the kind the clinic used, was arranged neatly on a small table. "He had it delivered this morning," Anna explained. "So Mrs. Cole doesn't miss her exercises." Zariah stared at the setup. The equipment wasn't cheap, and it had appeared overnight like magic. How did he know what she needed? He called the clinic, spoke to her physical therapist directly. "He can't just do that. There are privacy laws." Anna smiled. "He made a very generous donation to their equipment fund. Sometimes generosity opens doors that laws keep closed." Zariah didn't know how to feel about that. On one hand, it meant Nonna could keep up with her recovery. On the other hand, it felt like charity, and the Cole women had survived this long without handouts. Before she could decide how angry to be, her phone rang. Zariah? It's Jennifer from Elite Cleaning. Hi, Jennifer. Honey, I'm so sorry, but I have to let you go. Zariah's stomach dropped. What? Why? The client from yesterday. There was some kind of incident. The police were asking questions, and my insurance company is nervous about liability. I can't afford to lose my coverage. But I didn't do anything wrong. I know. Sweetie, this isn't about you. It's about protecting the business. I'm really sorry. The line went dead, and Zariah stared at her phone in disbelief. In less than 24 hours, she'd lost one of her 3 jobs. The math was simple and terrifying. Without that income, she couldn't cover rent and Nonna's medications. Bad news, Matteo's voice came from behind her. She turned to find him standing in the kitchen doorway, still wearing yesterday's clothes. He looked tired, but his eyes were alert and focused entirely on her. I just got fired from the cleaning service because of what happened yesterday. I'm sorry. Are you? Because this is exactly what I was afraid of. One day in your world, and my life is falling apart. Your life was already falling apart, he said quietly. 3 jobs and you still couldn't pay your bills. Working yourself to death and watching your grandmother suffer because you couldn't afford proper care. I didn't cause that. The words stung because they were true. At least I was handling it myself. Were you? Or were you just drowning more quietly? Zariah wanted to argue, but Nonna's voice interrupted from the kitchen. Boy, come here and settle an argument. Anna says I'm putting too much sugar in the cornbread. Yes, ma'am. Matteo went to the kitchen, leaving Zariah alone with her anger and fear. She followed him, planning to continue the fight, but stopped short when she saw him sitting at the kitchen table with Nonna. Her grandmother was showing him how to roll the cornbread mixture, and he was listening with the kind of attention most people reserved for important business meetings. Like this? He attempted to shape the dough, his large hands surprisingly gentle. Better. You're getting it. Nonna patted his arm with her good hand. Zariah, come help. You always were better at this than me. Reluctantly, Zariah joined them at the table. Working with her hands helped calm her racing thoughts, and the familiar routine of cooking with Nonna felt like home, even in this strange place. How did you know that song? She asked Matteo suddenly. What song? Last night. You were humming the lullaby Nonna used to sing to me. Matteo's hands stilled on the dough. I must have heard her humming it yesterday during therapy. It was a reasonable explanation, but something about the way he said it felt incomplete. Before she could push further, Luca appeared in the kitchen doorway. Boss, we need to talk. Matteo excused himself, and Zariah found herself straining to hear their conversation from the next room. She caught fragments, something about surveillance footage, and a white van seen near her old apartment building. When he returned, his expression was grim. What now? She asked. Someone's been watching your building, taking photos. Photos of what? Of you. Coming and going. Your schedule. The cornbread forgotten. Zariah sank into her chair. This is really happening, isn't it? Someone really wants to hurt me. Not you specifically, but you're connected to me now, and that makes you a target. Why? What did you do? Matteo looked at Nonna, then back at Zariah. I run a business that some people don't approve of. I make enemies. What kind of business? The kind that requires security and discretion. It wasn't really an answer, but the way he said it told her everything she needed to know. Matteo wasn't just wealthy, he was powerful, and powerful men with enemies usually operated outside the law. You're in the Mafia, she said flatly. I prefer private contractor. That's not an answer. It's the only answer you're getting right now. Nonna had been listening quietly, her sharp eyes moving between them. Now she spoke up. Boy, what happened to your family? The question seemed to come out of nowhere, but Matteo's face went completely still. Nonna, Zariah said. Hush, baby. I'm talking to him. Nonna fixed Matteo with her steady gaze. You got that look, like someone who lost people. Bad. Matteo was quiet for so long that Zariah thought he wouldn't answer. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. My wife, and our baby. Someone planted a bomb in her car. How long ago? 3 years. You blame yourself. I should have seen it coming. Should have protected them better. Nonna reached across the table and covered his hand with hers. Guilt's a heavy thing to carry, boy, but it don't honor the dead to let it kill the living. Zariah stared at her grandmother in surprise. In all their years together, she'd never heard Nonna speak with such gentle authority to a stranger. Is that why you're helping us? Zariah asked. Because you feel guilty? Matteo met her eyes. Maybe, but that doesn't make it less real. The rest of the day passed quietly. Anna left after lunch, promising to return the next morning. Luca maintained his position outside, occasionally checking in but mostly invisible. And Matteo seemed to be everywhere and nowhere. He helped Nonna with her afternoon therapy session, his large hands surprisingly gentle as he guided her through the exercises. He made phone calls from the backyard, his voice too low to overhear. He stood guard by the windows when he thought no one was looking. That evening, Zariah found him in the kitchen, staring at his phone with a frown. Problem? The restaurant where you work. The diner. Someone was asking questions about you today. Zariah's blood chilled. What kind of questions? Your schedule. What time you usually leave. Whether you walk to the bus stop alone. Tony would never. Tony didn't tell them anything. But they asked. Zariah sank onto the couch, the weight of everything crushing down on her. This is insane. Yesterday I was worried about rent money, and now someone's stalking me. I know it's overwhelming. Do you? Do you really? She looked up at him, anger and fear warring in her chest. Because you live in a world where this is normal, where people get shot at and threatened and it's just another Tuesday. But this isn't my world, Matteo. I don't know how to live like this. He sat down beside her, careful to keep distance between them. You're right. This isn't your world. But you're stronger than you think. How do you know? Because you've been taking care of your grandmother and holding down 3 jobs and fighting to stay afloat for months. That takes strength. That's just survival. Sometimes they're the same thing. They sat in silence for a while, watching the shadows lengthen in the small living room. From the bedroom, they could hear Nonna humming softly to herself as she did her evening exercises. That song, Matteo said suddenly. The lullaby. My wife used to sing it. Zariah turned to look at him. She was black? Her grandmother was. She learned it as a child. His voice was soft with memory. She sang it when she was nervous or excited. She was humming it the day she died. I'm sorry. She would have liked you, he said. You have the same stubborn streak. Is that a compliment? With her, it was. Zariah studied his profile in the fading light. There were layers to this man that she was only beginning to understand. The authority and control she'd first noticed was still there, but underneath it was grief. And underneath that, maybe something softer. Matteo, yeah? When this is over, when it's safe for us to go home. What happens then? He was quiet for a long moment. I don't know. I've never had to think that far ahead before. What do you mean? Usually when someone becomes a target because of me, they either join my world permanently, or... He didn't finish the sentence. Or they die. Yeah. Zariah felt something cold settle in her stomach. So those are my options? Become part of your world or end up dead? No. The firmness in his voice surprised her. There's a third option, which is, I end the threat. Permanently. The way he said it made Zariah shiver. This was the dangerous man she'd sensed from the beginning, the one who commanded loyalty and inspired fear. But he was offering to use that danger to protect her. I don't want anyone to die because of me. Sometimes people die because of the choices they make. Not because of you. Before she could respond, Nonna's voice called from the bedroom. Zariah, baby, can you help me with my evening pills? Zariah stood, grateful for the interruption. This conversation was getting too deep, too complicated. As she headed toward the bedroom, Matteo caught her hand. For what it's worth, he said, I'm glad you fell asleep on my couch. Why? Because it means I got to meet you, both of you. There was something in his voice that made her pulse quicken, something that had nothing to do with danger or protection and everything to do with the way he looked at her when he thought she wasn't paying attention. Matteo, go help your grandmother. We can figure out the rest later. As she walked away, Zariah realized that somewhere in the chaos of the last day, everything had changed. She was no longer just a victim of circumstance. She was a woman with choices to make, and one of those choices was sitting on her couch, humming her grandmother's lullaby and waiting for her to decide if she trusted him enough to let him protect her. The question was, what else was she willing to let him do? The third morning in the safe house began with the smell of pancakes and the sound of Nonna laughing. Zariah woke to voices drifting up from the kitchen, her grandmother's warm chuckle mixing with Anna's gentle teasing and something deeper. Matteo's voice, but lighter than she'd heard it before. She padded downstairs in her pajamas and found an unexpected scene. Matteo was standing at the stove, wearing an apron that read, Kiss the Cook, and looking completely out of place. His sleeves were rolled up, showing strong forearms, and there was flour in his dark hair. "Turn them now, mijo," Anna instructed, pointing at the pan, "before they burn." "I'm trying," Mateo said, wielding the spatula like it might bite him. "This is harder than it looks." "Cooking is about patience," Nonna said from her wheelchair at the table. "Something you young people don't have enough of." Zaraya cleared her throat, and all three of them turned. Mateo's expression shifted when he saw her, something softer, replacing his usual careful control. "Good morning," he said. "Morning." She accepted a cup of coffee from Anna, inhaling the rich aroma. "What's all this?" "Mateo wanted to learn to make proper pancakes," Anna explained. "Your grandmother's been giving lessons." "More like giving orders," Mateo muttered, but there was affection in his voice. Zaraya watched him flip a pancake with careful concentration. This was a different man than the one who'd pulled her away from sniper fire. This version seemed almost normal. "How'd you sleep?" he asked without looking up. "Fine." It was a lie. She'd lain awake thinking about their conversation, about choices and protection, and the way he'd looked at her when he said he was glad they'd met. Her phone buzzed, a text from Tony at the diner. "Haven't seen you in days. Everything okay?" Zaraya's stomach clenched. Another reminder of the real world waiting outside these walls. Bills that needed paying, a life that was falling apart while she played house with a man who may or may not be a criminal. "I need to call work," she said. "No." Mateo's voice was firm. "Not until we know it's safe. I can't just disappear. Tony's counting on me for the morning shift." "Your safety matters more than a shift at the diner." "Easy for you to say. You're not the one who needs the job." The room went quiet. Anna busied herself with the coffee pot, and Nonna watched the exchange with sharp eyes. "You're right," Mateo said finally. "It is easy for me to say, but that doesn't make it less true." Before Zaraya could respond, Luca appeared in the kitchen doorway. His expression was grim. "Boss, we have a problem." Mateo set down the spatula and followed Luca into the living room. Zaraya started to follow, but Anna caught her arm. "Let them talk first, Mija. This is about me. I have a right to know." "Yes, you do. But sometimes it's better to let the men figure out how to explain the bad news before you hear it." Through the doorway, Zaraya could see Mateo and Luca talking in low voices. Mateo's posture was tense, his hands clenched at his sides. When he ran one hand through his hair, she noticed it was shaking slightly. They came back together, and Mateo's expression told her everything she needed to know. "What now?" she asked. "Someone broke into your apartment last night," Luca said, "tore it apart, looking for something." Zaraya's legs gave out, and she sank into a kitchen chair. "Our things. Nonna's medical records, her insurance papers. Everything important still there," Mateo said quickly. "This wasn't a robbery. They were looking for information." "What kind of information?" "About me. About any connection between us. But there is no connection." The words felt wrong even as she said them. After 3 days of shared meals and quiet conversations, it felt like a lie. "There is now," Mateo said quietly. Nonna reached across the table and took Zaraya's hand. "Baby girl, you need to ask yourself something. Do you trust this man?" Zaraya looked at Mateo. He was watching her with those dark eyes, not pushing, not demanding, just waiting for her to decide. "I don't know," she said honestly. "Then let me tell you what I see," Nonna said. "I see a man who sleeps on a couch instead of taking the comfortable bed, who learns to make pancakes because he wants to do something nice, who knows how to be gentle with an old woman's therapy exercises. Nonna, I also see a man carrying enough guilt to crush most people, a man who lost his family and blames himself. That kind of pain, it either breaks you or it teaches you the value of protecting what matters." Zaraya stared at her grandmother. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying maybe it's time to stop running from help when it's offered freely. But what about independence? About taking care of ourselves? Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is admit you can't do everything alone." Mateo spoke up. "I'm not asking you to give up your independence, Zaraya. I'm asking you to let me help you keep it." "What does that mean?" "It means we find a way to end this threat so you can go back to your life, but a better life, one where you're not working yourself to death just to survive." "I don't want charity." "Good. I'm not offering charity. I'm offering partnership." The word hung in the air between them. Partnership implied equality, mutual benefit. It implied trust. What kind of partnership? Before Mateo could answer, Anna's phone rang. she answered quickly, speaking in rapid Spanish. When she hung up, her face was pale. "What?" Mateo asked. "That was my cousin who works at the hospital. Someone was asking about Mrs. Cole's medical records yesterday, pretending to be from insurance, but she didn't believe them." Zariah felt the walls closing in. "They're tracking every part of our lives, which means staying hidden isn't enough," Mateo said. "We need to take the fight to them." "No." Zariah stood up abruptly. "I won't be responsible for people getting hurt. You're not responsible for anything except deciding whether you trust me to protect you. I don't even know who you really are." Mateo looked at Nonna, then back at Zariah. "You want the truth? The whole truth?" "Yes." "Then come with me." He led her upstairs to the bedroom he'd been using. Unlike the rest of the house, this room was sparse, functional. A bed, a dresser, a single chair, by the window. But on the dresser was something that stopped Zariah cold. A hospital bracelet, small and white, with faded printing. "Elena Rinaldi," Mateo said quietly. "My wife." Zariah picked up the bracelet with trembling fingers. The dates showed a 3-day hospital stay, and the medical code indicated maternity ward. "She never made it home," he continued. "The bomb went off in the hospital parking garage. She was coming to show me the first ultrasound pictures." "Mateo, I was supposed to pick her up, but I had a meeting. Business that couldn't wait." His voice was flat, emotionless. "If I had been there, you would have died too. Maybe. Or maybe I could have protected her." Zariah set the bracelet down carefully. "Who did it?" "A man named Victor Dragic. He wanted to hurt me, and he found the perfect way to do it." "Where is he now?" "Still out there, still looking for ways to hurt me." Understanding crashed over her like a wave. "And now he's found us." "Yes." Zariah sank onto the edge of the bed, the weight of everything finally hitting her. "This Victor, he's the one who's been watching me." "I think so." "What does he want?" "To use you the same way he used Elena, to hurt me through someone I care about." The words, "someone I care about," made something flutter in Zariah's chest. But this wasn't the time for feelings. "So what do we do?" "We end it." "How?" Mateo sat down beside her, careful to keep space between them. "I have resources, people who are loyal to me. We find Victor before he makes his next move, and then I make sure he never hurts anyone again." The certainty in his voice should have frightened her. Instead, it made her feel safer than she had in years. "What about after? When Victor's gone and we're safe? What do you want to happen after?" It was a simple question with a complicated answer. What did she want? To go back to working 3 jobs and barely surviving? To watch Nonna struggle with recovery while counting every penny? Or did she want something more? "I want Nonna to get the best care," she said slowly. "I want to stop worrying about rent and medicine and whether we'll have enough food. Done. I want to finish the degree I started before Mum and Dad died." "What were you studying?" "Social work. I wanted to help families like ours." "You still can." Zariah looked at him. "Why would you do all that? What do you get out of it?" Mateo was quiet for a long moment, staring at the hospital bracelet on the dresser. "A chance to protect someone instead of failing them. A chance to build something good instead of just tearing down my enemies. And maybe a chance to feel something other than guilt for the first time in 3 years. The honesty in his voice broke something open in Zariah's chest. This powerful, dangerous man was just as broken as she was, just trying to survive his own kind of poverty. "If we do this," she said carefully, "if we become partners, I need rules. Name them." "Nonna comes first, always. Her health, her safety, her comfort." "Agreed. No lies. If you're going to do something that affects me, I need to know about it." "Agreed. And no decisions about my life without me. I'm not some delicate flower that needs to be protected from reality." "Agreed." Zariah studied his face. "Just like that?" "Just like that." "Why?" "Because I learned the hard way what happens when you try to protect someone by shutting them out. I won't make that mistake again." Downstairs, they could hear Nonna and Anna talking, their voices a comforting murmur. Normal sounds in an abnormal situation. "There's one more thing," Zariah said. "What?" "If we're going to be partners, I need to know I can trust you completely, not just with my safety, but with everything. What do you need from me?" Zariah took a deep breath. This was the moment that would define everything that came after. "I need to know that when this is over, when Victor's gone and we're safe, you won't just disappear back to your world and leave us behind." Mateo turned to face her fully. Where would I go? My world is empty without people who matter in it. And we matter. You matter more than you know. The way he said it made her heart race. There was something in his voice, in his eyes, that had nothing to do with protection or guilt or partnership. Matteo, I know this is complicated. I know I'm asking a lot. What are you asking? For a chance, to prove that I can be the kind of man who deserves your trust. Before she could respond, Luca's voice called from downstairs. Boss, we need to move. Now. They rushed downstairs to find Luca looking at his phone with a grim expression. What is it? Matteo asked. White van spotted 3 blocks away. Same one from the surveillance footage. Anna was already helping Nonna gather her medications. Despite the urgency, her grandmother moved with calm efficiency. Where do we go? Zariah asked. Somewhere more secure, Matteo said. My penthouse. It has better defenses. As they prepared to leave, Zariah realized she'd made her choice. Maybe not consciously, but somewhere in the conversation upstairs, she'd decided to trust him. The question now was whether that trust would be enough to keep them all alive. In the SUV, with Nonna's hand in hers and Matteo's quiet presence beside her, Zariah allowed herself to hope. For the first time in years, she wasn't facing an uncertain future alone. Whatever came next, they would face it together. And maybe, when the danger was past, they could figure out what together really meant. The penthouse felt different this time. What had seemed like intimidating luxury a week ago now felt like a fortress. Zariah watched Luca check the security systems, while Anna settled Nonna in the guest bedroom, making sure all her medications were within reach. The cameras cover every approach, Matteo explained, showing Zariah the monitors in his study. Motion sensors on all the windows. No one gets close without us knowing. What about the elevator? Locked down. Only my code works now. Zariah nodded, trying to process everything. A week ago, she'd been a cleaner who fell asleep on this man's couch. Now she was watching him turn his home into a bunker to protect her. Zariah? Nonna called from the guest room. Come help me with these pillows, baby. When Zariah entered the bedroom, she found her grandmother sitting on the edge of the bed with a knowing look in her eyes. Close the door, Nonna said quietly. Nonna, what? Sit down. We need to talk. Zariah perched on the chair by the window, noting how the bulletproof glass made everything look slightly distorted. That man out there, Nonna said. He's falling in love with you. Nonna, don't Nonna me. I may have had a stroke, but my eyes still work. The way he looks at you, the way he listens when you talk. That's not just protection, baby girl. Zariah's heart fluttered. It's complicated. Love usually is. This isn't love. We barely know each other. Sometimes the heart recognizes what the mind isn't ready to accept. Nonna reached out with her good hand, cupping Zariah's cheek. What are you afraid of? The question caught Zariah off guard. What was she afraid of? That Matteo was dangerous? She already knew that he lived in a world she didn't understand? That was obvious too. I'm afraid of losing myself, she said quietly. I've worked so hard to be independent, to take care of us. What if I let him help and forget how to stand on my own? Baby, there's a difference between being independent and being alone. You've been carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders for 3 years. Maybe it's time to let someone else help carry it. Before Zariah could respond, Matteo's voice came through the intercom. Zariah, can you come to the study? She found him standing at the window, his shoulders tense. Luca was there too, holding a tablet with what looked like surveillance footage. What is it? She asked. Victor made contact, Matteo said without turning around. What kind of contact? Luca handed her the tablet. On screen was a photo of the diner where she worked. Tony was in the foreground, serving coffee to a man Zariah didn't recognize. The timestamp showed it was taken that morning. He's escalating, Matteo said, moving from watching to direct interaction. Tony, Zariah's voice was barely a whisper. Is he in danger? Not if we end this now. Matteo finally turned from the window, and Zariah was startled by the cold determination in his eyes. This was the dangerous man she'd sensed from the beginning, the one who commanded fear and loyalty in equal measure. What are you planning? To draw Victor out, make him come to me instead of hunting you. How? By giving him what he wants. Zariah's blood chilled. Which is? A chance to hurt me through someone I care about. No. The word came out sharper than she intended. Whatever you're thinking, no. You don't even know what I'm suggesting. I know it involves using me as bait, and I know that's exactly what got your wife killed. The room went silent. Luca looked uncomfortable, shifting his weight from foot to foot. Matteo's face went completely still. "That's different," he said quietly. "How? Because this time, I know it's a trap. This time, I'm prepared. This time, you could lose someone else." The words hung in the air between them. Matteo's careful control cracked just enough for her to see the fear underneath. "Then what do you suggest?" he asked. "We can't hide forever. Victor won't stop until he gets what he wants. Maybe he doesn't have to get it from me." Both men stared at her. "What do you mean?" Luca asked. Zariah took a deep breath, an idea forming. "Victor wants to hurt you by hurting someone you care about. But what if he thought you didn't care about me anymore?" "That's not going to work," Matteo said immediately. "Why not?" "Because it's too late. He's seen how I've protected you. He knows. People fight. Relationships end. What if we had a very public breakup?" Matteo was shaking his head before she finished speaking. "Absolutely not." "Why?" "Because the moment he thinks you're not under my protection anymore, he'll grab you. And then we're back to square one. Except you're alone with him. Not if we're watching, waiting for him to make his move. Too risky." Zariah felt frustration building in her chest. "So what's your solution? Hide in this penthouse forever? Let Victor control our lives?" "My solution is to find him first. And if you can't?" Matteo didn't answer, which was answer enough. Luca cleared his throat. "Boss, maybe we should consider—" "No." Matteo's voice brooked no argument. "We're not putting her in more danger." "You're not putting me anywhere," Zariah said, anger flaring. "I'm a grown woman who can make her own decisions. Not about this, especially about this. This is my life, Matteo, my choice." They stared at each other across the study, and Zariah could see the moment when his protective instincts warred with his promise to respect her autonomy. Before either of them could speak, Anna's voice came through the intercom, tight with urgency. "Matteo, come quickly, Mrs. Cole." They ran to the guest bedroom to find Nonna sitting on the edge of the bed, her face pale and her left hand shaking. "What's wrong?" Zariah dropped to her knees beside the bed. "Just a little dizzy spell," Nonna said, but her voice was weaker than usual. Anna was checking Nonna's blood pressure with a cuff she'd produced from somewhere. "It's elevated, not dangerously, but higher than it should be." "Stress," Matteo said quietly. "This is my fault." "No." Nonna's voice was firm despite her weakness. "This is that Victor person's fault. Don't you start taking blame for things he's doing." Anna finished her examination and helped Nonna lie back against the pillows. "Rest. I'll make some tea that'll help with the blood pressure." In the hallway outside the bedroom, Zariah confronted Matteo. "You see, this hiding, this running, it's making her sicker. Moving her around is stressful, but nothing. We need to end this. Now." Matteo ran a hand through his hair. "Zariah, please. Let me handle this my way. Your way got Elena killed." The words were out before she could stop them. Matteo flinched, as if she'd slapped him. "I'm sorry," she said immediately. "That was true," he said quietly. "My way got Elena killed, which is exactly why I can't risk losing you too." The raw pain in his voice broke her heart. This wasn't about control or arrogance. This was about a man so terrified of losing someone else that he couldn't think straight. "Matteo, look at me." He met her eyes reluctantly. "I'm not Elena. This isn't the same situation, and if we're going to be partners, you have to trust me to know my own mind." "I do trust you." "No, you don't. You want to protect me, but protection without trust isn't partnership. It's imprisonment." Before he could respond, Luca appeared again, this time looking genuinely worried. "Boss, we have movement. White van, 3 blocks out and closing." The next few hours moved like a nightmare. Victor wasn't just watching anymore, he was testing their defenses. The van circled the building twice before disappearing. Then came the phone calls to the building's front desk, asking about visiting friends in the penthouse. By evening, it was clear that hiding wasn't working. "He's going to force a confrontation," Luca said, reviewing the surveillance footage. "Tonight, tomorrow night, but soon." Matteo paced the living room like a caged wolf. "Then we choose the terms. How? We make the first move." Zariah had been listening from the kitchen, helping Anna prepare dinner that none of them had much appetite for. Now she stepped into the living room. "I have an idea," she said. Both men looked at her. "The cleaning service where I used to work. They have a job tonight at an office building downtown. Large, lots of security cameras, multiple exits." "What are you suggesting?" Matteo asked. "I go back to work. Act like I'm trying to resume my normal life. Victor follows me, thinking I'm vulnerable. Absolutely not. But you and Luca are watching, waiting. When he makes his move, you're ready. Matteo was shaking his head. Too many variables. Too much that could go wrong. More could go wrong if we keep waiting for him to choose the time and place. Luca spoke up hesitantly. She's not wrong, boss. Taking the initiative gives us advantages. She's not trained for this. I don't need to be trained. I just need to be myself, a scared woman trying to get her life back. You're not scared, Matteo said quietly. Yes, I am. I'm terrified. But I'm more afraid of living in fear forever. They argued for another hour, but eventually, Matteo's strategic mind won out over his protective instincts. The plan was simple. Zaraya would take a shift at the cleaning service's emergency job. Victor would follow, expecting an easy target. Matteo and Luca would be positioned to intervene. As they prepared to leave, Anna pulled Zaraya aside. Mija, be careful. That man out there, he cares about you more than you know. I know. Do you? Because the way you two have been dancing around each other, I'm not sure either of you knows. Zaraya looked toward the living room, where Matteo was checking his weapon with practiced efficiency. It's complicated. Love always is. But that doesn't make it less real. The office building was a tower of glass and steel in the financial district, empty except for security guards and cleaning crews. Zaraya signed in with the night supervisor, noting the cameras at every entrance and the clear sight lines Matteo would have from the building across the street. For the first hour, nothing happened. She cleaned offices and conference rooms, trying to look natural while her heart hammered in her chest. The building felt too quiet, too empty. At 11 p.m., her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Parking garage. Level B2. Come alone, or your grandmother dies. Attached was a photo of Nonna, apparently unconscious, in what looked like the back of a van. Zaraya's blood turned to ice. The plan had been for Victor to come after her, not for him to somehow grab Nonna from the penthouse. How was that possible? Her phone rang. Matteo, don't, he said immediately. It's a trap. He has Nonna. No, he doesn't. She's safe in the penthouse with Anna. But the photo could be faked, could be old, could be a lot of things. Don't go to that garage. But even as he spoke, Zaraya was moving toward the elevator. She couldn't risk it. If there was any chance Victor really had her grandmother, I have to. Zaraya, no. Wait for us. I can't. You know I can't. She hung up and got on the elevator, pressing the button for the parking garage. As the elevator descended, she typed out a quick text. Level B, 2. I'm sorry. The parking garage was dimly lit and mostly empty. Zaraya's footsteps echoed as she walked between the concrete pillars, looking for any sign of Victor or the white van. Very touching, a voice said behind her. She turned to find a man in his late 30s watching her with cold eyes, tall, lean, with prematurely grey hair and a smile that never reached his eyes. Victor, you know me. How flattering. His accent was slight but noticeable, though I suppose Matteo has told you all about me. Where's my grandmother? Safe. For now. He circled her slowly, like a predator sizing up prey. You're prettier than Elena was. I can see the appeal. What do you want? What I've always wanted. To hurt Matteo Rinaldi in the most effective way possible. And you think hurting me will do that? I know it will. You should have seen how he reacted when I sent that photo, like a man watching his world end all over again. Zaraya realized with growing horror that the photo had been designed to force exactly this choice. Victor had counted on her protective instincts, just as he was counting on Matteo's. He's coming for you, she said. I'm counting on it. The lights went out. In the darkness, Zaraya heard Victor curse in what sounded like Serbian. Then came other sounds, footsteps, a door slamming, the distant echo of voices. A hand grabbed her arm in the dark, and she started to struggle before a familiar voice whispered in her ear. It's me. Stay down. Matteo pulled her behind a parked car just as emergency lighting flickered on, casting everything in an eerie red glow. Across the garage, Victor was backing toward a service exit, a gun in his hand. Matteo, Victor called out. I know you're here. Come out, and maybe the girl lives. I'm here, Matteo said, stepping into view with his own weapon drawn. Let her go. This is between us. Everything is between us now. That's what happens when you care about someone. You want me? Take me. Leave her out of it. Victor laughed. Just like Elena. You couldn't save her, and you can't save this one either. Elena's death was my fault, Matteo said, his voice carrying clearly across the garage. I should have been there, should have protected her better. Yes, you should have. But Zaraya isn't Elena, and I'm not the same man I was 3 years ago. We'll see. Victor raised his gun, aiming at Zaraya's hiding spot. But as he did, she made a choice that surprised everyone, including herself. She stood up. Stop, she said, stepping into the open. Zaraya, get down. No. She looked at Victor, then at Matteo. This ends here. Victor smiled. Finally, some sense. You're right, Zaraya continued. Matteo couldn't save Elena, but you know what the difference is? What? I'm not asking him to save me. Before Victor could react, Zaraya dove to the side, rolling behind another car. The distraction was enough for Luca to appear from behind a concrete pillar, his shot taking Victor in the shoulder and spinning him around. Victor's gun clattered across the concrete, and suddenly it was over. As Luca secured Victor and called for medical attention, Matteo pulled Zaraya to her feet, checking for injuries with shaking hands. Are you hurt? No. Scared, but not hurt. You could have been killed, but I wasn't. We did it, Matteo. We ended it. He pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. Don't ever do anything like that again. I won't have to. Victor's finished. That's not what I mean, and you know it. She pulled back to look at him. What do you mean? I mean I can't lose you. I won't survive losing someone else I love. The words hung in the air between them. Love. He'd said love. Matteo, I know it's too soon. I know this whole situation is insane, but I need you to know that what I feel for you isn't just guilt or protectiveness or gratitude. What is it? It's love. Complicated, terrifying, life-changing love. Zaraya looked into his dark eyes and saw everything she'd been too afraid to acknowledge in herself. I love you too, she said quietly. This time, when he kissed her, there was no danger pressing at the edges, no urgent need to run or hide. There was just them, and the promise of a future they could build together. 6 months later, Zaraya woke to the smell of pancakes and the sound of Nonna laughing in the kitchen. Some things, she thought with a smile, never changed. She padded downstairs to find the usual morning chaos. Matteo at the stove, still wearing the ridiculous kiss the cook apron. Anna directing operations like a general, and Nonna, stronger now and walking with just a cane, supervising everyone with obvious delight. Morning, sleepyhead, Matteo said, dropping a kiss on her forehead as she passed. Morning. She accepted coffee from Anna and settled into her usual chair at the kitchen table. Any word from the clinic? Nonna's tests came back perfect, Anna said. Dr. Martinez says she's made remarkable progress. Because I have good help, Nonna said pointedly, and because someone finally learned how to make decent pancakes. Zaraya looked around the kitchen of the penthouse that had somehow become home. After Victor's arrest, they'd tried going back to the safe house, then to Zaraya's old apartment. But nothing felt right until Matteo had quietly suggested she might want to stay, not as a guest, but as family. The transition hadn't been without bumps, learning to live with someone after years of fierce independence, figuring out how to accept help without losing herself, navigating the complexities of loving a man whose world operated by different rules than hers. But they'd made it work, one day at a time. What's your schedule today? Matteo asked, flipping a perfect pancake. Classes until 3, then the new job interview at 4. Zaraya had finished her degree in social work the month before, graduating summa cum laude with Matteo, Nonna, and Anna cheering in the audience. The job interview was for a position at a family services organization that helped women in crisis work that felt like coming full circle. And tonight? Matteo's voice was casual, but she caught the hint of nervousness underneath. Tonight we have dinner, like every night. Right, dinner. Anna and Nonna exchanged a look that made Zaraya suspicious. They'd been acting strange for days, sharing secret smiles and whispering conversations that stopped when she entered a room. What are you three plotting? Nothing, they said in unison, which was obviously a lie. After breakfast, Matteo walked her to the elevator as he always did, but instead of his usual quick kiss goodbye, he caught her hand. Zaraya, yeah? Whatever happens tonight, just remember that I love you. What's going to happen tonight? Dinner, like you said. But the way he said it made her heart skip a beat. The interview went well. Dr. Patricia Williams, the director of New Horizons Family Services, was a woman in her 60s with kind eyes and a firm handshake. "Your background is exactly what we're looking for," she said, reviewing Zariah's application. "Personal experience with the challenges our clients face, combined with professional training. When can you start? Next Monday? Perfect." As Zariah left the building, her phone buzzed with a text from Anna. "Wear the blue dress tonight. Trust me." The blue dress was new, a gift from Matteo for her graduation. She'd protested that it was too expensive, but he'd insisted. Now, looking at herself in the mirror, she had to admit it was beautiful. Elegant, but not flashy, the kind of dress that made her feel confident and feminine at the same time. When she got to the kitchen for their usual dinner routine, she found the table set with the good china and candles flickering. Matteo was wearing a suit instead of his usual jeans, and Anna was bustling around with obvious excitement. "What's all this?" Zariah asked. "Celebration dinner," Matteo said, "for the new job, but we don't know if I got it yet." "You got it," Nonna said from her chair at the table. "That woman would have been a fool not to hire you." They ate Anna's famous lasagna and talked about everything except the obvious tension in the air. Matteo seemed nervous, checking his watch and glancing toward the living room windows. After dessert, he stood up abruptly. "Zariah, can you come with me for a minute?" "Where?" "Just come with me." He led her to the living room, where she stopped short. The couch where she'd first fallen asleep, the couch that had started everything, was surrounded by flowers. White roses and baby's breath, arranged in a perfect circle on the floor. "Matteo, what?" "6 months ago, you fell asleep on that couch," he said, his voice soft. "Changed my whole life in the span of an afternoon nap. You changed mine too. I know this is fast. I know we've been through more in 6 months than most couples go through in years, but I also know that I don't want to spend another day without you." He dropped to one knee beside the couch, pulling a small velvet box from his jacket pocket. Zariah's heart stopped. "Zariah Cole, will you marry me?" The ring was perfect, simple, elegant, with a stone that caught the light like captured starlight. But more than the ring, it was the look in Matteo's eyes that took her breath away. Hope and love and nervous anticipation all mixed together. "Yes," she said, laughing through sudden tears. "Yes, of course, yes." As he slipped the ring onto her finger, she could hear Nonna and Anna cheering from the kitchen. When he stood to kiss her, she tasted salt from her own tears and felt something settle into place in her chest. This was home, not the penthouse, not any building or place, but this man and the life they were building together. "I love you," she whispered against his lips. "I love you too, more than I ever thought possible." Later, after Anna had broken out the champagne she'd been hiding, and Nonna had offered her blessing with tears in her eyes, Zariah found herself back on that couch, the same spot where everything had begun. Matteo sat beside her, his arm around her shoulders, both of them just breathing in the moment. "Are you happy?" he asked. "Completely. No regrets? About any of it?" Zariah thought about the path that had brought them here, the exhaustion and fear, the danger and uncertainty, the gradual building of trust and love. It hadn't been easy, but it had been real. "No regrets," she said firmly. "Not even about falling asleep on your couch. Especially not about that." As the city lights twinkled beyond the windows, Zariah let herself finally, fully relax. For the first time in years, she wasn't worried about tomorrow, wasn't counting pennies or calculating medication schedules or wondering how they'd make it through another day. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, planning a wedding, starting a new job, continuing to build this life they'd chosen together. But tonight, surrounded by the people who loved her, wearing an engagement ring that caught the light like a promise, she was exactly where she belonged. And when Matteo started humming Nonna's old lullaby, the same one he'd learned that first week, Zariah closed her eyes and let herself drift towards sleep. Safe, loved, home. The circle was complete.